Hey everybody, it's Charlie from Daily Motor, and we are coming into the last month of 2023. In fact, when you're watching this, it's probably going to be at least December 2023 or later. However, this right here in front of us is a 2022 Honda Civic Sport Touring with the 6-speed manual transmission. And I have this because I reached out to Honda not too long ago and I said, hey, I haven't driven the manual Civic in a while and I wouldn't mind having a little refresher. It's been a little while since we've spent time with this car. And I did not realize that they were going to send me the first model year, the 2022. They've actually had this car bouncing around the automotive journalist fleet for probably about 2 years now, and it has nearly 10,000 miles on it. That might not sound like a lot of miles in the grand scheme of how long a car might last, but Chris and I joke around that journalist miles are almost like 5 or even 10 times harder than your normal mileage on a car. So this having 10,000 miles means it's been through many different hands and used for many different hard driving purposes. And it's been around presumably the Southern California, LA press fleet here for most of its life. So that means a lot of traffic, a lot of stopping and going with this manual transmission. So rather than just shoot another Civic review, because we've reviewed plenty of Civics here at Daily Motor, I figured I'd cover the car in sort of how does this hold up here after 10,000 hard miles. Now, I say we've reviewed a lot of Civics here at Daily Motor because we've driven SIs, we've driven Type Rs, although I actually don't think I've ever shot a Type R video for Daily Motor. I've driven them plenty of times, and we actually gave the 2022 Honda Civic our Daily Motor Car of the Year award for the 2021 calendar year. So we really love this car. I like everything that Honda's done with it, with the styling, with the accommodations, with the kind of interior layout and everything. So I think they've done a really good job, and this is a cool package because you get a manual transmission that's pretty good for manual transmissions these days. You get the hatchback layout with a good amount of usability and good rear seat room. It's decently efficient, it's comfortable, it's got a lot of nice features, including that 12-speaker Bose sound system. They did a great job, and I do still quite like it. And despite this being a 2022 model, Honda hasn't actually made any changes from 2022 to the 2024 model year. So if you buy a 22, a 23, or a 24 Honda Civic, they're all going to be the same. First things first, a lot of door opening and closing done on this car, obviously, because people getting in and out and shooting videos and everything. Still pretty darn solid. It's a confident feel. In fact, I am satisfied that both the driver front and passenger doors have proxy key where you just touch and it opens up. So that's been good. Ingress and egress. I know this lighting might not be fantastic for you all, but the seat's not showing any sort of wear in the interior bolster, despite people probably sliding in and out of it. I guess you don't slide quite as much when you're getting down into a sedan like this. A little bit of scratching right here on this plastic, but power seat elements seem to be working okay. I will say that I've noticed that I could use some lumbar support in this seat. This Honda Civic Sport Touring doesn't have any sort of adjustable lumbar, and I don't know if the seat bottom cushion has sort of wore out a bit already or what, but I've been finding that I can't quite get comfortable. It feels like I'm kind of sitting too low, but also like I just could go for a little bit more lower back support. The leather-wrapped steering wheel, thank goodness, and you can tell the leather's getting a nice feel to it. Kind of that classic smoothed out leather feel rather than sort of the newer kind of grainy leather texture that you're used to seeing on new cars. So that seems to be wearing pretty well. All the stitching seems to be in good shape. And that solid clunk shut. Not only do these press cars get driven hard, but they're also, I'm going to go out on a limb and say they're cared for a little bit less delicately than somebody would do for their own personal car. Because, I mean, let's admit it, whenever we're using something that's not ours, we tend to have a feeling of, oh, well, you know, if it gets a little scrape here or there or whatever, you don't have to live with it. And I'm not saying that's something like a good thing, good attitude for people to have, and I'm not saying all journalists, but it's human nature to not quite take care of things as well as you would if they weren't your own. So people are not going to be necessarily warming up the engine as much before they get out and rev it up here with the manual transmission. They might not be double clutching as smoothly as they might for their own personal cars. But this clutch seems to still be in really good shape. Let's come to a quick stop and then get going again. Yeah, Very smooth. The shifter as well, that 1-2 shift still seems to be smooth and confident. Honda's got some of the best manual shifters on the market, especially for a front-wheel drive car, and still seem to be getting good positive shifts here out of the Civic. Something that's impressed me with all these new generation Hondas has been the satisfaction of how everything works inside. That's not super new or unique to Honda, I should say, or unique for Honda. They've often had a bit of a higher quality feel to a lot of their componentry, but it really stands out on these newer models. Every little click of climate control or volume, everything's got a nice feel to it, and that has held up very well over these 2 years. Every interior button and click still feels just like the newer Hondas that I've driven. In fact, other than the wear on the wheel and a few of those little scrapes down here on the seat, I don't see any signs of wear on this car. And part of that is because Honda elected not to put any piano black down here. I think that's really smart. We've got a little bit of piano black plastic up here, but you don't really ever touch that, so it's okay. It still looks good. But if this area were piano black, then they'd be covered in scratches at this point. But this is a very durable, textured plastic they used, and that's held up well. Yeah, that seat is the other thing that just concerns me a little. It's kind of hopping up and down. It doesn't feel like the center bottom of the seat has a lot of cushion left. It feels like it's been pretty smushed down. So if any of you are current generation Civic owners, let me know after 10, 20, 30,000 miles, does your seat bottom feel like it's a little flatter than it was new? I know it's really tough to say if you've lived with the car that entire time. It's sort of that glacial effect. You never notice that these things are kicking in, but you get back into it after a little while, maybe you notice. Car still seems quiet. A Civic's got pretty average amounts of road noise. I mean, when you consider the price and the class of this vehicle, it's pretty good, but it's not nearly as quiet as the Accord EX that we had a few weeks ago, or even the CR-V from last week. And I've been asking myself throughout the time with the car, that I've had this car, would I rather have this Civic or the Accord EX that I test drove? The Accord was about $1,000 to $2,000 cheaper, depending on how you look at it. But the Civic's got a lot more features. It's got a better sound system, leather-wrapped steering wheel, manual transmission, wireless device charging, wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, bigger screen, leather. But the Accord is a nicer place to be in while you're just sitting and munching away miles. It's quieter, it rides smoother, you've got more room in it, and it's more of a subtle, calm driving experience. So it'd be tough for me to say. And the problem is with the Accord is you got to step all the way up to the top-level touring model to get the Bose sound system. So you're looking at $38,000, $39,000 for an Accord with Bose, whereas you can get into one for about $32,000 here in the Civic. The shifter itself also seems to be holding up really well. It doesn't quite have that more leather feel of the steering wheel. It still feels and looks really new. Ooh, here's some piano black I'm seeing in the sunshine, though, that has some scratches in it. You don't quite notice it when the sun's not shining on there, but I bet you they've rubbed that section down to keep the car clean more regularly, and do see a few scratches even in that area that you shouldn't be touching regularly. In terms of how the Civic is holding up in the marketplace now that it's been out for a few years, I still think this is right at the top of this class. I'm trying to think of some of the competitors if I'd rather have them, and no, I mean, the Civic feels like the best put together in this class. It looks one of the best in the class. It's got some of the best features and ease of use and kind of quality feel to it. The Corolla is definitely good, and you might have an easier time getting your hands on the Corolla spec the way you'd want, and arguably might be more reliable long-term with its naturally aspirated engine. The Nissan Sentra has a little bit more space in the sedan layout and is honestly pretty good to drive as well. Has a lot of good features. But the Civic feels like a nicer and more premium product than that. Mazda 3 is good, but you're just giving up so much visibility and rear seat room with the hatchback. I mean, you could barely sit back there as an adult in the Mazda 3, whereas I'm comfortable in the back of the Civic. The Civic is definitely still at the top. I still enjoy spending time in it, driving it, recommending it. Definitely a good little car, and seems to hold up pretty well. After 10,000 hard miles, No squeaks, no rattles. Let's hit these speed bumps right here. That was a hard one. Taking it well. Yeah. Not bad, Honda. Alright, well thank you all so much for watching. If you do want to see more on pretty much any Civic of your choice outside of that 2-liter that we still have not gotten our hands on, check the link below. And we'll see you on the next one. I'm Charlie from Daily Motor, and as always, Honda on.